Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to another edition of Prime on My Media Prime TV, the first for this week. We are going to be discussing on what Cameroonians have been talking about for over a month now. It is above 64 days since the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, left Cameroon for a private short stay, and more than 2 months now he's not back. Many tongues are wagging and dust raised across the 10 regions of Cameroon. Questions are being asked about where he is, precisely what he is doing, and when he is coming back. It is true that we have had outings from the Minister of Communication of Cameroon, the government spokesman, who came out to debunk the fact circulated by many social media platforms saying that the president was okay. And we have had two other ministers come out to situate Cameroonians on what may be happening with the president of the republic. But so many questions are still being asked because at the point of departure, it was described as a brief private stay, and many persons are wondering whether brief private stay actually fits into more than 2 months living out of the country. We're going to be looking at the impact of such a long stay out of the country by the President of the Republic. We also are going to be zooming into what happened in Limbe some days back with the floods that took some lives, destroying property, and measures are taken so far by the municipal administrators of Limbe, and we are going to be discussing, also getting information from what is happening currently on ground. We are discussing on these two very important topics today with our panelists who are with me. We have Professor Alain Kofele, who is our consultant. We're glad to have you.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Leonard. I'm happy to be here and to participate in this national conversation that has to do with the disaster management of the Limbe flood, and also concerning the institutional implications of the president's more than 2 months of absence. I believe that our viewers will benefit a lot. I believe government officials who are watching this program will also gain perspective on how to navigate these very complex waters that we find ourselves right now. I also want to salute the presence of my fellow panelists, and as we all look forward to a very enriching conversation.
Robert Kedia Malangfe of the CPDM is also part of tonight's edition of the program. We're glad to have you, Mr. Kedia. It's been a while.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leonard. Greetings to you, greetings to my co-panelists. It's a pleasure to be here again as we'll be discussing issues, of course, that concerns His Excellency President Paul Biya in particular. It's always a pleasure when I'm to sit and talk about my president. And of course, we'll be talking about issues, should I call it natural disaster occurring in Limbe. As we all know, we'll definitely give our views and of course propose our own solutions, because I believe that as the Bible says, when 2 or 3 are gathered, God is in their midst. I believe that as we are gathered here and talking, God is in our midst, and everybody that is listening to us will definitely look at a positive perspective we'll be bringing out.
We also are going to be discussing with Mr. Mosoke Alionga of the US Party. He's the coordinator for Biya and aspiring to become the next mayor of the town of Biya, Southwest Regional Capital. Good evening, we're glad to have you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me. I just wish to welcome Cameroonians that we're happy to be here, and that it has always been our delight to dish out that which we can, and we just hope that that which we are giving out from here is also helping the community to grow. And permit me to just use this opportunity once more to extend our condolence to the families that lost their loved ones during the flood that just took place in Limbe. We did a write-up, which we sent out to the public. So we just wish to say that we are also feeling They are grieved, and we say that may the Lord God help these families, and even those who lost their properties. We just pray that God will continue to help them, and that the government will intervene timely to see that these things are brought back to normal. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm grateful to be here.
Professor, when the president is traveling out of the nation, and Cameroonians are told that he's going for a brief private stay in Europe, and 2 months, more than 2 months, he's not yet back. Do we have reasons to worry about such a situation?
I think the issues are deeper than just the president's brief private stay. It raises a culture of transparency which is absent. I think with the culture of transparency, you'll find more honest communication coming, because the President Paul Biya is elected. He is elected by the people. He is a representative of a collective mandate of the people who have been given, which collective mandate which the people have given to him. Accountability towards these people is not only towards periods of election. It's not only when votes are needed that politicians will show themselves accountability. Accountability is the basis of how power is handled. And so it is just and normal and regular for people who gave you their votes, who supposedly gave you their mandate, to find out issues that have to do with you. We gave you our mandate to be present. We gave you our mandate to be accountable. We said democracy is power of the people, for the people, by the people. And so why is it that when issues of accountability come up, we forget about the by the people part? These same people who gave their mandate, who were able to transfer through constitutional or unconstitutional means, whatever be the opinion concerning that subject, to you. If they are asking, where are you? Should it not be the natural response for you to clearly tell them where you are, why you have been this time? And if the people go deeper to say you have been out of the constitutional jurisdiction which was given to you, a vote is not just a vote cast. There are implications to a vote. When people give you their vote, they are saying work for us. They are saying be there for us. They are saying you are going to be accountable for us, towards us. And so when the time of accountability comes, it should not be a strange moment. It should be a moment where there is a deeper reflection on what is it about participative governance. The way government officials have handled this issue is typically what we frown at towards the attitude of politicians. Towards elections, they are very humble. Towards elections, they are very cooperative. Towards elections, because they need that vote, there are promises of we'll be accountable to you. We'll explain everything to you. We'll tell you our going in and our going out. And this is one of such moments. You cannot dismiss the concerns of the people and act as if they are only important when you need their vote and their mandate, but they are not, part of the governance process. I think as basic as it can be, before we go into the complex ramifications of the president being out of the country, it is the most basic way of looking at it. If we have given you our mandate, then there must be some certain level of accountability.
Okay.
The communication should not be arrogant. The communication should be clear. The communication should show some certain level of accountability to these same very people whom at some point received a mandate from them to become their president.
Okay, Kedia Malamfe, do you understand why Cameroonians are acting worried by the prolonged stay of the President of the Republic out of Cameroon?
I would enjoy, or I would like if you say some Cameroonians.
Okay.
Because when you say Cameroonians, you give an impression that it's all Cameroonians, whereas it's not all, some.
Okay.
Because I myself am not bothered. And why am I not bothered? The law does not say, or there is no constitutional law that prohibits the president from being out of the country for a particular period of time. If the law could have said he should not be out of the country maybe for 60 days or 70 days, and he's out for more than 60 days, then I will definitely be among those that will stand up to say he has violated the law of the land. But I don't think for now any law of the land has been violated. The Constitution does not say otherwise. And to also go further, we should understand the system of Cameroon, how it functions. The President of the Republic, President Paul Biya, is the head of state, and we have the head of government. And the government is the mechanism, the machine that implement his ideology. And we all know all over the world, every president, carry out its function with briefing and instruction, because the president cannot be in all ministry at the same time, taking decisions at the same time. So you realize that the president is in constant communication with his head of government, and the head of government, Prime Minister Giangute, is working with the other ministers, and they are doing their best to do the will of the people. The accountability that my co-panelist is talking about, the developmental project, education, and the rest, which we are talking about. President Paul Biya was out of the country. That did not stop the Minister of Territorial Administration to go ahead closing churches that, of course, don't have the right document. President Paul Biya is out of the country. That does not stop Minister Nalova Lyonga to shut more than 100 schools that don't have documentation. The machinery of the government is functioning. The president is the head of government, the head of state, but we have a prime minister who is head of government, who is the mechanism of the ideology of President Paul Biya, and actually he is doing his job right now as we speak. So to conclude, I'll say the Constitution is not against that. Where the president is found, he's still the president of the republic. When the President Donald Trump goes to France, that does not stop him from being the president of the USA. Or when the president of France came to Cameroon, that did not actually stop him from being the president of France. The president is out for a brief outing, and we expect that he should come back. For me, others are worried that the president should come back, but for some of us, we miss him too. His love, that we want to also see him, because we actually miss him. He has been out for 2 months. So everybody have their own view, their own reason, but we are in democracy, and the view and opinion of everyone should be respected.
Yes, Mr. Mosoke, are you worried that the president, your president, is out of Cameroon for over 2 months? Since there is no problem. Imagine a Nigerian president who is ruling from America or from wherever, from any part of the country for over 2 months, without clear explanations on what may be keeping him out there.
Yes, I'm a bit surprised about what Mr. Kidia just said. Cameroonians did not vote the prime minister. Cameroonians did not vote ministers. Cameroonians voted for the president, and he's supposed to be accountable to Cameroonians. And the president of the republic, whether there is whether it's mentioned in the constitution or not, he owes that duty to be accountable to Cameroonians who voted for him. I wish to say that, unfortunately, the communication system of the hierarchy of Cameroon has not actually matched. And these are the things that have been happening in time past, and people don't trust messages that are coming again from hierarchy. Because you cannot tell Cameroonians that a president is going for a short visit, a short private stay, and more than 2 months, nothing clear is said about his whereabouts. And you come out again and pass out a message which is still not very clear, which is like the people don't even know. The government itself is not even very sure, according to what they have communicated again of recent. So, but Cameroonians are supposed to know where their president is, what is happening with their president, the state of affairs with respect to their president. That is what other nations are doing. That is what happens elsewhere. There's no country where a president disappears for 2 months and people don't know his whereabouts. People don't know where he is presently. They only said that he is gone to Europe. They were not even specific with respect to the country. It is out of search and noise and so on that people are even saying that he's in Swiss. But they communicate, there's no communique that has specifically informed Cameroonians that he's in Swiss. The communique said, yo, I think that Cameroonians should not be treated as though they are not people who deserve to be accountable to after they have voted a president to work for them. President Biya is working for Cameroonians, and Cameroonians have the power and have the right to say, don't vote for us again, and they don't vote for him again if he doesn't want to be accountable to them. For 2 months somebody will not be in the country no matter what, and people don't know his whereabouts, people don't know exactly what is happening with him. No, it's not done anywhere, and I don't think that Cameroonians should be happy with this scenario. This scenario has proven beyond reasonable doubt that Cameroonians are not valued, and accountability is not rendered to Cameroonians who gave their mandate, who voted for an individual to lead them. Then that person is not in the country for 2 months, and nobody can give exactly what is happening with the person. So I don't wish to say that, Mr. This is not a good scenario.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
It's not a good scenario. I just want to get to what some of the government ministers say. The government spokesman, Emmanuel René Sadi, he said he denied reports by Jeune Afrique that President Biya was hospitalized in a private clinic in Geneva following an alleged medical incident. Jeune Afrique actually has said so. So the Minister of Communication came out to debunk that information, but he confirmed that President Biya was in Geneva, Switzerland. He said he was not hospitalized and that his health did not require that the kind of medical treatment reported. The minister, however, said even if President Biya took advantage of his stay to undergo routine medical consultations, the president continued to follow the affairs of the Republic attentively and could issue whatever decisions were necessary. We have the Minister of State, Minister of Higher Education, who said there is no constitutional or legal limit on how long.
Who speaks in that capacity as Secretary General of the party?
Of the party, yes.
Of the CPDM.
Yes.
Secretary General of the CPDM.
No, please. Let me finish. Let me just finish. Yeah. He said there is no constitutional or legal limit on how long the president can stay outside Cameroon, but remains the head of state and continues to exercise his functions from abroad. He dismissed the talk of a vacancy at the presidency as unfounded speculation. He urged Cameroonians to stop focusing on rumors and concentrate on their work. We have the Director of Civil Cabinet, Vondo Ayolo, who said President Biya is in good form and doing well. The president recently received some persons, that's what his communication said, but is still working on state matters. When you get this, was it really necessary? This, we have had 3 or 4 ministers, because the Minister of Labour also came out to say the president was on vacation. And yeah, do we need this? When Minister of Communication is talking, Minister of Higher Education, Minister of Labour, and others, almost everybody is talking. Do we need all of this?
2 things I want to draw attention to as pertains the spirit behind those responses. First of all, we cannot redefine what accountability means. Accountability means what it means world over. In every system where there are guidelines and standards of operation, accountability, what it means in Cameroon, is the same thing it means in China. There's a baseline definition of what accountability means. So we cannot come in the Cameroon setting and try to redefine and qualify as, we cannot practice selective accountability. Accountable when it is favorable, accountable when it is convenient, and not accountable when it's demanded from the people to whom we are accountable to is unacceptable. And I think the Cameroon political society, the population has become politically aware. It's not that ignorant population of years back, whom the president could go for long periods and only journalists or news outlets would express concern. The Cameroon people have shown that they have matured over time and are demanding accountability. We cannot redefine what accountability means. If a civil servant who is a staff, paid worker for the state, does not appear after a certain amount of time, what the state demands from him is accountability. Demand explication. Where are you? Why? Because his first responsibility is who pays his salary. In the context of the head of state, his first responsibility is not just the fact that he is a civil servant, is that he has a political mandate. If the prime minister went on an extended tour, we may not be the ones to demand where the prime minister is. It will be the state. Why? Because he's a civil servant of the state. But because the president is not just a civil servant of the state, he has a political mandate given to him by an electorate. We cannot, in that context, practice selective accountability. Secondly, when you look at the spirit of this communique, you observe that this communique is not addressing the Cameroon population. If the communiques were addressing the Cameroon population, you will find certain elements that are meant to provide clarity to I constantly don't just want to use the Cameroon population. I want to first place emphasis on the people who voted for President Paul Biya, the 50-something% that gave him their mandate before the rest of Cameroonians. If you look at the spirit of this communique, it's not trying to put at peace and the concerns and the confidence that these people are raising. I think this communique shows a deeper issue. And the deeper issue is that the issue of the presidential presence has implications that go beyond the state of Cameroon. It's not only the electorate, investors, other people that have stakes in the nation. It is more or less the people to whom the communiques are addressing. You look at the density, look at the layers of this communique. What Mr. Leo read there, if I permit to be able to provide context, it's more or less of a report. The original communique from Professor Jacques Famdongo, he did not speak just in his capacity as the Minister of Higher Education. No, he spoke in his capacity as an official of the ruling party. Why? Because there are political implications to the president's absence. The director of cabinet spoke in an administrative capacity because there are administrative implications to the president's absence. The minister of communication spoke in his capacity as the minister of communication,
government spokesperson. Yes,
because there are national implications. You see the strategic intervention of these three groups of high-level government officials. It's not just to satisfy. It is more or less to be able to handle the effects of the president's absence. The president's absence is not just a legal issue. If it was a legal issue only, you will find out these communiques will focus more on the legality of his absence or his presence. But you see, there are implications beyond just the constitution. It is not just constitutionality that you use to reassure investors. Investors have other parameters that they are watching when a president is absent or present. Mr. Leo, it will interest us to understand at this point in time that Cameroon does not just operate a presidentialist system. A presidentialist system is a constitutional system which has the president as the as the highest executive official. What actually we see operating in Cameroon are two parallel systems. It's a personalized presidential system. A system that, even though there is an administrative system, parallel to that is an elitist system. The administrative system has a legal mandate, but the parallel personal presidential system, which is the elite system, which is the patronage system, is what carries the power. Investors know where the power is. Investors know the power is not with the head of government. Investors know that the power is with this elite system that is not in place. And at the head of that elite system is the presidency and the president. And so we should not get confused and try to blow the issue of constitutionality out of proportion. When we're already beginning to look at different ramifications in the debt market, in the bonds market, international investors, we are looking at Cameroon's capacity to borrow and to be able to fund state projects being affected. We have gone beyond the issue of just constitution. There are implications to an institution that cannot survive without its presidential head.
Now, the Minister of Communication was responding to an article by Jeune Afrique, and we've read many communiques from ministers telling Cameroonians that the president was working from out of the country. But does President Biya's absence create uncertainty among local and foreign investors? He was talking about investors. Are investors more concerned about institutions, infrastructure, taxation, corruption, and a host of others? The fact that the president is not there for over 2 months has no effect on investors? You think so?
You see, most investors that have been in Cameroon, they know how. It's not the first time the president is going out.
It's never been for over 60.
Yes, but when you do a comparative, when you compare this year, compare with the previous year, that you go and do 1 month camber, go and do 1 month camber in the same year, you realize that that one is longer. This could be just because it's one particular time that is like that. But when you go and look at other years, you calculate how long has it been out of the country per year. You look at that, you look that this one is one of the least. So that's just an aspect that we should know. As I earlier said, when investors are coming to a country, they look at the activities of the government, and we have a head of government, and we have various ministers. Investors will definitely discuss with the Minister of Economy. They will definitely discuss with Minister of Finance, or ministers that have to do with their the various ministries in which they are investing in. And I just want us to understand this. We're in democracy. Us here, we are free to give our opinion on where the president is. That is how ministers to police, everybody is free to give his opinion. Okay? But we have a government, and I earlier distinguished. We have the president, who is the head of state, and we have a government that have a head of government. Before a minister comes out, the Minister of Communication and spokesman of the government, he came out as spokesman of the government, and he has spoken and said what is happening. The rest of people have given their opinion. We are in democracy. It is their right. You see, we should look at legality and legitimacy. There is a speaker of the government, and he's the one that speaks. No matter your title you have in the CPDM, no matter your title you have in the government, you don't have the capacity to speak on behalf of the government. Is there speaker of the government only? So the rest of the people, they are giving their opinion. It's democracy. It's their right. I'm here, I'm giving to my own opinion. So it's clear, their title of ministers should not make people think that they are out to do a certain defense or whatsoever. No, it's their opinion. Investors are there in the country. At least, you see, Cameroon is a blessed country in many ways. That things have been happening in many ways, you know. People will not come out now to shout about investors, but during the Anglophone crisis, we still had investors that were investing in Cameroon before the crisis even coming to an end now. During the era of Boko Haram, we still had investors. So this issue of investors that we are talking about, as if the president not being out of the country is pushing out investors. No, but everyone has the right to see his own thing in his own way that he or she wants to. That's democracy, the sweetness of everybody expressing his or her own opinion. The government is there, the head of government is there, they are executing their function. I don't know which part of the country that will see to say that no, they are not executing their function. And let us talk about accountability. I've been hearing about the word accountability. When it comes to politics, accountability is you being elected to fulfill your promise you did to the electoral, to those that voted you. That is why you see you should have a manifesto to say this is what I will do, this is what I will do, this is what I will do. And the people judge you based on that manifesto. So the interest of the people is what is being done in that manifesto. We should not mix everything up. That's accountability. And the judgment of that accountability is based on election. If you promise them through your manifesto, they're interested to look at what you are doing to execute that manifesto. And if you've not executed it, which is the accountability, then they'll need to decide in an election if they are sanctioning you or not. That is accountability in politics. Because what I was hearing here about accountability, I was just like, what do we mean by accountability? The president is working. And there is this thing that people have their own view and how they set it by. I respect that as democracy. But I just want to tell Cameroonians that it's very, very easy to change the government when you are out of the country than to change or to do a reshufflement in the military. Bringing in place 5 generals, changing your deputy chief of staff is more difficult than cabinet reshufflement or changing of ministers. And the president is there and he's doing his job. That's when it comes to his job as head of state, that's what he's doing. Other aspects, they are functioning. So when we say accountability, what is he not doing that he was supposed to do? The president is out of the country. Anywhere he is, he signs a decree. It's a decree. The power is based in Yaoundé. Even if he's in Cameroon and he's in Saint-Melema, if he signs a decree, it's done in Yaoundé. Even when Donald Trump goes out of his country, any decree he signed, it is done in Washington, D.C. They will not say it was done in France. They will not say it was done in Ethiopia. So we should not mix things and give an impression of our own view of accountability differently. His manifesto is there. We judge him based on his manifesto. That is accountability. And where he is, everybody knows where he is. He's in Swiss. Everybody knows that. The communique was done. Brief stay, that's it. Instead, what I was expecting maybe opposition is to talk about how brief his stay is.
Yeah, but tell us, how brief is
good
2 months?
And that is why the minister, spokesman of the government, came out very clear. It was a brief stay, but he went out. There are certain aspects that delay his stay. He has received many investors, which we are here complaining that investors are not coming, but he's there begging investors to come back to the country. People are saying that no, he should not beg investors to come back to the country. He should come back to Cameroon. If he comes back to Cameroon, they will shout at him that no, go and beg investors. At the end, what are we doing? We should be realistic. We have seen how he has received investors. We are here complaining that investors are not coming. Whereas somebody is out to beg investors and we say there is no accountability. We should be honest when we are analyzing things and say things the way it is. The spokesman of the government has spoken. He says that the president's outing was supposed to be brief, but other constraints came in, like talking to investors to come back. And even if there is an issue of health, that is not still a problem. Yar'Adua made how many years out of Nigeria as president before finally he died, and of course Buhari took over. Okay. We are not talking about completing his mandate. He was president, right? But he was out for how long? We are talking about how long somebody is outside. We are not talking about mandate.
But that case is different. That case is different. Please, the case of Yar'Adua is he was out of the country because he was sick. Yes. We have not been officially been informed that the president of the Republic.
The spokesman of the government has spoken that he received investors now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you are saying that it's not official. How can the spokesman of the government speak and we say it's not official?
You are mixing up things. I said that Yaradua was out of Nigeria for health reasons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Today, we have not been told that the president is out of the country for 2 months because of health reasons. So
We are talking about being out of
You
the
say
country.
he's out.
I am saying that
He's out there begging for
President
investors.
Biya is out working.
Begging for investors.
Why that the case of Nigeria, their president was even sick. He was not even working. They did not complain. But as he's out working and they are complaining, that's the comparative I'm doing, and I think I'm not wrong in it, Mr. Kum.
Okay. Every minister says there is no need to worry. The president is out there and the job is getting the job done. Do you have the impression that anything has changed from the output of the collaborators of the president because he's out of the country? Has anything changed at all?
Actually, it's chaotic
Okay.
to justify what is not supposed to be justified. It's chaotic, and we must. This is the country that we have been in for the past 43 to 44 years today, because we justify chaos and we support chaos. I think that what we are saying here is that the president's stay out of the country was well defined, and Cameroonians have waited for their president that they elected. They voted for him, and we are receiving communiques left and right. I did not see any communique that says that the president is out of the country begging for investors to come back to Cameroon. I haven't seen that anywhere. When
To come back to Cameroon.
that,
I did not say that either.
yes, to come to Cameroon. I have not seen any
I said he's out
communique.
to beg
Yes,
investors
yes.
to come.
I have not seen
not
any
to return, to
communique.
come.
I have not
Not to
seen
return.
any communique
They are
that
two
states
different
that.
things.
I've not seen any communique that says the president is out there
We should
begging
not manipulate
for
words.
investors. Yes, there's no communication.
No,
to that effect.
the spokesman.
But
of the
I just
government.
wish to say that
Huh?
the
I thought it
government,
was right here.
the presidency of Cameroon is taking Camerooners for granted. And I think that it's high time they understand that Cameroon we had 40 years ago is not the Cameroon we have today. Cameroon has enlightened youth. Cameroon has emerging youth. Cameroon has emerging leaders who understand the dynamics. The government cannot continue to manipulate Cameroonians, because what is going on now is manipulation. It's not reality. It's manipulation. And this issue needs to, it will go on annals, it will go on records that the government thinks they can continue to manipulate Cameroonians, and Cameroonians will take it lightly. No, we're not taking it lightly. When people voted for you, they voted for you to work. And if you are working somewhere, you should tell them that you are somewhere working and tell them what you are doing there. Don't say that there is a manifesto and let's judge him by the manifesto. No, we have been judging the ruling party by the manifesto for 43 years or so. What have they achieved from the manifestos that they had for the 43 years?
Watching them now.
I am saying that they have not been able to achieve what Cameroonians expected for these 43 years. They have achieved something, but I say what Cameroonians expected has not been achieved. What we are saying is that the president of the Republic of Cameroon is out of Cameroon, and we don't know what the president is doing out of Cameroon. We don't know his state of affairs. We don't even know what he went out there to do, except the brief stay that we knew that he would stay there briefly, which was supposed to be brief. But it has prolonged to 2 months plus, and it's making news worldwide, which means that it's not something normal. It's an abnormal situation. Let them tell us clearly that the president is out there. This is clearly why or what he's doing. They should not tell us or give us ambiguous communication and think that we are still those Cameroonians that they were manipulating in the past. No, Cameroonians are enlightened today. And let us not forget that all these things are contributing to the negative balance sheet that is already in place, and which we are struggling every day to borrow, and the rest. And ahead of us, we have other upcoming elections. Again, they will still come again to tell us again stories and the rest. So my own take on this, Mr. Leo, is that it's an abnormal situation because Cameroonians don't have the full information on what is happening with their president and why is their president still out of the country. It's not clear.
We've seen decrees appointing generals. We've seen many decrees are signed while the president is out of the country. Cameroonians, do they really believe these decisions are coming from the president, or strategically some decisions are taken by other persons in the country?
I think Cameroonians are aware of indicators that matter and those that do not point the nation to the direction of truth.
Okay.
The dynamics and the technicalities behind a decree does not answer the questions that are being raised by the president's absence.
Okay.
Let's not get confused. Decrees could be signed, and when they are going to be released, could be programmed. It's part of administration. Public administration has those kind of dynamics and has those kind of mechanisms. It's not every time where within an administrative system, the time where the decrees are released was when they were signed. No, that is a weak indicator of the machinery being at work. Now, whether we try to accept it or not, I think two things have come up that are strong indicators. We may try to suppress it, but I think the elite that understand and that matter are not suppressing it. And I don't think Cameroonians should suppress what those at the top are not suppressing. For the president's brief stay, in quotes, to become newsworthy, to become an issue where Reuters, RFI, and other international media bodies consider an abnormality, should not be an issue where we domestically suppress. If it is globally seen as an unusual situation, then we should pay a closer look at it. In October 2024, Cameroon had very poor performing Eurobonds. For the sake of viewers, what are these Eurobonds? Eurobonds are kind of debt servicing mechanisms, debt servicing channels that countries sell their debt for international bodies or investors or financial institutions to buy those debts at a certain interest rate. In 2024, October 2024, when the president left the country, when he had this brief stay, Cameroon's Eurobonds performed worst in a decade. It declined thrice before the president's return within that scope of more than 30 days. Thrice. It declined. What was that? Is to indicate that the president's absence is a high risk factor. Why? Because people who see clearly understand that Cameroon does not just run, it's not just an administrative system, it is a kind of a presidential system that requires the presence of the president. There are decisions that in the absence of the president, nobody has the ability to take. Nobody. There are powers that are not given to the head of government. Fellow panelists mentioned Nigeria.
Kedia.
Yeah, Kedia. It's a Kedia. He mentioned Nigeria. The Nigerian system is not the kind of delegated system that we have in Cameroon. Nigerian system runs in such a way that the vice president is not a figurehead. When there is delegation of powers to the vice president has power to be able to engage conventions that bind the nation. He's able to pass decrees that are binding as if it was a president who was present. And when investors have a closer look at Cameroon, and at the head of this presidential system, which President Biya sits as the chief executive officer, in his absence, nobody carries the kind of power he has. Nobody. Nobody has the power to sign things into law. Nobody has the power to orchestrate lobbying, which is one of the patronage systems of which this country.
Yeah, but the minister say wherever he is, he's still in full charge and taking the best decisions, working.
The ministers are talking typically concerning an administrative system that does not need the president. But investors are talking about a system that cannot function without the president. So we should not get confused about this. When investors are coming, they are saying, if we get into conventions with this country, and for one reason or the other, this president is not there, or something happens, or is incapacitated, who in that current system that is in Cameroon has power of continuity? Can this current administration continue without him? The answer is no. That is the reason why it has become a concern, because every right-thinking person who looks at the system we run here know it's not resilient. It cannot survive the shock test. It can't survive the shock test. If you remove the set man, I mean, ministers are all confused because they understand the system. The system is run essentially by the set man. The system runs essentially on appointments. It is the most recurrent way in which this presidential system will runs appointment. The general's appointment. And appointments are not a good indicator of a system that can survive a shock test. So I think this is what raises concern. That he who runs the system, if he's not in place or is incapable, look at the issue in the United States. Up to now, Joe Biden is still under American scrutiny. Why? Because of incapacitation, not absence. He was still president, but the system was judging him on, even though you were president and you were still in power, were you capacitated? Can we attribute decisions to you? Were you in the fool? Or that's why the issue of the auto pen came up. Because they found out that at a certain level of administration, some things are automated. So the automation of decrees and appointments is not what every deep thinking Cameroonian is looking at. We're looking beyond that. We are saying that this system for over 40 years has a way it has run. It runs to it. Investors come to Cameroon and the first place they go to is the presidency. They go to see the president because they understand actually where power is being brokered. Issues happen and you find out that you cannot exclusively depend on the administrative system to get it solved. You have to go to the center of power. And at that center of power sits one man. And when that one man is not at the center of power, people cannot go and be seeing him in Geneva. They need him to be on ground for people to be able to see him. Investors who buy debt are saying, if we buy this debt and tomorrow the president is not there for one reason or the other, even though there's a framework that has been passed concerning the position of the vice president, there's no vice president. It is a cacophony. It's a hula balo. It's a brouhaha. It's a hanging system. Okay.
Good evening to you, Maman Alim Hassan, who is watching us on our Facebook handle. And also to you, Eddie Rudolph Sakang. Askia von Philippou, good evening to you. And to you, Sayo, Nicoline Nke. And to all of you watching us on our My Media Prime Facebook handle, we greet you all. The president leaves for Europe for a brief private stay. It is over 2 months. He's not yet back. The president announced that in the days ahead, we're going to see the appointment of youths and other persons. It has not happened. We saw the touching of the constitution for the creation of the position of a vice president till date. What is happening? Almost everything has to take longer than expected. Is it a time frame for the president of the republic to reflect better on how to manage things? Or what's happening? Almost everything is going the other way from what is said.
You see, the constitution gives President Paul Biya all these powers, and he is the one evaluating and he is the one taking the decisions. If he promised that we'll have a government in the coming days, and he's the one that...
And more than 6 months, there's no government.
More than 6 months, he has evaluated the present situation, and he has, if he may have seen that those that are there are working, and it's his choice. The constitution does not kick against that, he does not he has a right to appoint ministers immediately after election. However, he promised it. And as a president, he is the one that knows circumstances, why he decided to prolong the present government. It's his choice. It is his choice. The constitution is not against that, and so it will be very difficult for us to look into that. And talking about the position of the vice president, the new constitution is very, very clear. The president may appoint may appoint. They have not said that the president will appoint a vice president. They said the president may appoint. That also give any president that will come up in Cameroon that right if they want to appoint or not, because we have the word may appoint. To go again further, as my co-panelist was talking about the bonds of the country, you see, we cannot take the case of 2024 because it dropped 3 times to evaluate everything. Is this how many times has President Pobia gone out of the country since 1982?
I would have given the statistics for this year. I just did not want to belabor you on that point. I would have given you how they are doing right now,
okay, just
to be able to corroborate, but proceed, sir.
As I was saying, President Pobia, if we are counting, I think it's hundreds of times already he has gone out of the country, and we didn't have this impact for us to take 1 or 2 aspects and generalize them. Secondly, my co-panelist also said that the president is supposed to be in seats to welcome investors. This would be very funny. We have seen, I don't know any country that the president does not go out to go and look for investors. That in the case of Cameroon, if the president is receiving investors to talk with them, encourage them to come and invest in Cameroon, since it is in Swiss, it's now a taboo because he's supposed to be in Cameroon and welcome them in Cameroon. This is not the first time that President Pobia have gone out of the country to talk with investors. All presidents, they do that. I mean, all. Even the president of China does that. The USA, Germany, they all do that to go and beg for investors. So the case of Cameroon should not be a problem because we want to criticize President Pobia. He's out, he's talking with investor. It's a good move. We should appreciate that, okay? And not to criticize everything because we want to criticize. We pray, the pictures were even out. We saw the discussion we had with some of the investors. For those that did not see it, you are free to go to the presidential website and you look at it there. And please, dear Cameroonian watching us, don't follow what people say on social media. Some people will go on social media, they will say they are rubbish, and people will take it and go with it everywhere. The presidential decree was never ever questioned by anybody. It was passed, the website of the president, it was there, that of the Secretary General, it was there, and that of the Director of the Civil Cabinet, it was there. It showed that it was authentic. It was read at the CRTV. The president is out of the republic and he's working and he's serving the nation. What is important is for us to look at the impact it will bring to our nation. For those of you that think legally or legitimately he must be in the country, sorry, the law does not stipulate that. For those of you that want him to come back to the country because you miss him, you love him, he's your president, you voted for him, it's also your right to say he should come back, and of course he will come back and we'll all rejoice. I believe that his return will be very triumphant because Cameroonians do miss him, not for the negative perspective that some people are struggling to build, but instead for positivity.
Okay, for positivity. Kedia said earlier on that Cameroon has a prime minister, head of government, and we have an extensive government structure. Why should the physical absence of the president significantly affect the functioning of the state?
Yeah, Mr. Leo, actually the issue is not the physical absence of the president.
Okay.
The issue is that the initial communique that was dissipated spoke about a brief stay. If it was communicated that the president would go out of Cameroon for 3 months, nobody would even ask because it's not yet 3 months. But because it was communicated that brief stay, people attribute that to the fact that he was supposed to have been back so as to handle issues that are normally supposed to be handled back home. Cameroonians were not told that he's going out for a brief stay and will continue for months to be handling things of the nation out of the country. No. So the cry of Cameroonians is not even for the fact that President Biya should come back. Even if President Biya stays out for 1 year, it might still not mean much to Cameroonians if it were communicated initially that President Biya will be out for 1 year, carrying out certain activities. Cameroonians will stay quiet and know that the machinery is in place and that things will work, because you have the prime minister, you have the presidency still functioning, still running, and that the president will liaise with his collaborators and make sure that things continue to work. That would have been an issue. But it's an issue today because the initial communication, which people thought brief stay maybe, is something which is very brief, as the word says, is going to 2 months plus. Now, I also wish to say that it's the same president who said that in the days ahead, a new cabinet will be available. It's the same president who said he will put the youths and the women and so on to make sure that the next. So people are actually not understanding what is happening, because even the communications that are coming behind to follow up, those communications, those publications are also not very clear. They still have some ambiguity to Cameroonians. So, and there have been a lot of publications also talking about the health of the president and so on, different publications. So, but Cameroonians would have loved to know that our president is out of the country and he will be carrying on some activities out of the country. Those activities, if those activities are known by Cameroonians, what is wrong for Cameroonians to know those activities? There is nothing on earth that is not known. Donald Trump moved from place to place. Donald Trump's activities are known. Other top presidents, their activities are known. That they are moving for this country to do this, and all those things are even shown on the media, and people know. So I just want to say that let Cameroonians not continually be taken for granted, as it has been the case for the past 40 years. We have reached a stage now where we need to move to another level. And when we have given you the mandate to pilot the activity of the country, and there are already some doubts, there are already some clouds, then you should speedily clear the clouds and let Cameroonians know the reality of what is happening. Because anything can happen to somebody who is already above 93 years. It's an old man, seriously advanced in age. So when he disappears, many things will be passing through the minds of Cameroonians. And you cannot blame Cameroonians for thinking on many angles that this or that might be the situation. So I think that we should not live again under this uncertainty. Let us know clearly that the president is out there for these activities, and maybe he's coming back in 2 days' time, so that Cameroonians will welcome him back, and the APDM that loves him so much will surely welcome him triumphantly in Yaoundé. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had so many persons say the president can stay there till 2032, since the constitution does not bar him from staying out there. There is no reason to question his absence from the country. One would wonder whether it's normal for a traditional ruler to stay out of his village, because there's no constitution that ties him to stay in the village. And an MP staying out of his constituency, do you need a written document that tells you to stay back in the country, especially at a time where the country is faced with economic issues, security, and amongst other issues?
Mr. Leo, I think one of the things that happened with in Cameroon is that we have such a slow response to issues when they come up. You try to compare our society or our political class to others, how they respond to certain changes in the society on the political consciousness. We find out that we're always very slow. And that slowness has come with a very high cost. The political landscape of Cameroon has shifted. It cannot go back to where it was before. I think even those who cannot openly admit that, somewhere within them, they know that we are not in 1992, we are not in 2005, we are not in 2015. the political landscape, the consciousness, doesn't it worry us that Cameroonians are keen on accountability? It's not like accountability is what is going to directly make the cost of foodstuff to go down, or is going to provide more hospitals or food, or be able to enable parents to be able to prepare for back to school. But that is an indicator to tell you that the political masses are more conscious than they were 4 decades ago. To take that for granted is extremely dangerous, because that puts you in a place where you provide responses to issues, but you're not conscious of what's actually going on. If you look at the response of our ministers and the political class and people who are trying to provide context on where the president is, I think they are not responding at the speed at which the demand is coming. We are in a political year, in a political season. We are moving towards key elections. And the same people whom you're expecting to vote for you are asking questions. Everywhere, meaning Cameroonians. If it is just for the issue of the age of the president, if it is just for issue of the level of consciousness, look at few days. I saw the comparison online. The president of Guinea went on vacation. There was very open communication. Where he went on vacation, pictures of where he was. And do we try to interrogate why nations have adopted an open communication policy? It's because nations have understood that you are dealing with people who are implicated. There are people who are present. They are aware. They are involved. They are concerned. They want to know because they want to be part of the decision of their future. The collective destiny of every nation is not just decided by the political class again. There's no nation state on earth that does that. Even countries which are heavily communist like China are adopting an extremely open door communication. The president of the United States, I will not want to go because we could always attribute and say they are very advanced societies. But if we look at even small nations, Benin Republic, we look at Mali, we look at Senegal, we look at countries that are not even up to our demographic strength. Our population is more than them. Our democracy is far more older than theirs. We look at that. Everyone has adopted an open door communication. There is no taboo if the president is sick and is on sick leave. The reason why it's an issue is because of the issue of continuity. Cameroon is at the verge of a political transition. Everybody knows that. And the reason why Cameroonians are worried is because periods of transition, if not well managed, can either result in prosperity or can end up in chaos. Cameroon is not a special nation under heaven. Cameroon is just a nation that is emerging. The challenges that have happened to other nations who did not manage periods of political transition very well can happen to anybody. And that's why the reason populations are concerned. They are saying, we don't want to be in the situation where it has happened like this, or has happened like that, or like happened like this, where a 92-year-old president is not available, or he is incapacitated, or something happens, and political wolves take advantage of that space, that vacuum, and create chaos. And that is the concern that investors have, because investors understand that Cameroon is in the verge of a political transition. He's a 92-year-old president. Even if you give him a 7-year mandate and he's 100 years in power, Cameroon is still in a period of political transition. And until that transition has a clear path forward, every step, every decision, every travel, every decree, every appointment has implications. So we should not be naive. The concerns that are being raised is not because people do not actually care about the country. It's actually because Cameroonians have grown to find out that this nation is our nation, and the decisions that are taken, whether by the people who have given them the political mandate through election or whatsoever means, whoever holds power can make a decision that will change my life. You can wake up one morning and a decision has been made that changes your life forever. Look at what's happening in Nigeria right now. The president was voted in, and his policy completely offsetted because he has an agenda. And so people have become extremely conscious. We cannot just sit quiet and wait for the period of election. No, it's not just the manifesto you present to us. Along the way, on how the journey towards the fulfillment of that manifesto is as important as the manifesto itself. How you carry yourself. President Yaradua, who was quoted shortly ago, had a mandate. Did he finish the mandate? No. The implication was that as he did not finish the mandate, somebody else was going to become the president of Nigeria who was not voted in. And so there are implications to political actions. No, I'm saying that when President Yaradua died, when President Yaradua died, his deputy became president, and it has political implications. That's my point. My point is that political actions have political implications, and if people are concerned about the nature of the political action, they should not be giving flimsy or headbed or very shallow explanations on why they are concerned. No, Cameroonians will continue to be concerned.
Okay. Kedia, is Cameroon suffering from a leadership vacuum as we speak, or are we creating a crisis out of a situation that the Constitution already provides for?
You see, there is no vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that have declared transition is their opinion,
mm-hmm.
and they are using it to stimulate the minds of people. As a young boy, I remember, I think it's 2011 election. Many people say, oh, he will not finish the election. He cannot finish this mandate. He will never finish this mandate. They were talking about vacuum. It came and passed. 2018 came. We still saw them. There is vacuum. He cannot finish this mandate. He will never finish this mandate. 2018, 2025 came and passed. We are in 2025 now. It's still going on. And they are still saying the same story that I've been listening for about 15 years today. Rather than looking at the reality, we should look at the work, how it is being done, rather than assuming what is not existing. And that's the problem we have today. There is no power vacuum. They have been singing about it, but since 2011 up to today, he is still there, very active. They are still there assuming, talking about power vacuum. 2032, you may see him there. And it's democratic right. The Constitution talk about less than 35, but it did not talk about the maximum age. So we should not assume, we should manage what is there effectively. So there's no issue of power vacuum. The president has a government, the government is functioning, the judiciary is there, the Constitutional Council is there. We should look about that. Are you even aware that some senior politicians have struggled to thwart the Constitution to talk about vacancy, and you hear them talking about incapacitated? Mr. Leonard, being incapacitated really is not in the Constitution. What we have in the Constitution is permanent incapacitation. So being incapacitated is not even the problem. The incapacitation should be permanent. That's what the law said. They know the meaning of permanent. They don't use it, like Honor Cabral and the rest. They did not use permanent. They use just because they have an agenda, and to give that mindset to people that there is no power vacuum. So, the president is there.
Kedia, if I may ask you now, you tell me the president is consulting, lobbying with investors. That is why he's out of the country for the past 2 months.
I am a citizen,
and
I follow the Speaker of the government. He said that the president is receiving people, and even if he is sick, he is not sick the way those medias they are showing it out. That's what he said, and that's what I believe. Even if he's sick, is he sick, or he's meaning that he could have health problem, which is still normal. That is why you get me saying that we are talking about in the Constitution. We are talking about death, resignation, and permanent incapacitation. Not incapacitation. The incapacitation must be permanent.
What is permanent incapacitation?
Pardon.
What is permanent incapacitation?
Permanent incapacitation is the incapacitation that have no that has no solution, that is permanent and will never be resolved. You could be blind, right? And there is hope that if they treat you will see. That's incapacitation. It's not permanent. If you could be treated and you could see later, so it's different. So if they say the president is sick, he's on his bed, and there's hope that he will get up in 2 months' time, it's not permanent incapacitation, meaning that they will wait for him. It's only when it is permanent.
But at least you say not all Cameroonians are worried. You are not part of those who are worried about the presidents are still out there. But do you understand them who would want to, because there are many persons who voted for the president of the republic who are not CPDM militants, they are sympathizers, who may also want to know what is happening with their president? I
earlier said it here that we are in democracy. Those that are worried is their right. They have voted for their president. They need to know. That's democracy. It's their opinion. There are even people that are not members of CPDM, that they are not even sympathizers of CPDM, but they love President Paul Biya. They want to know, because there are people that love President Paul Biya, but they don't sympathize with the party. They don't sympathize. They are not even militant. We should know how to distinguish all that. We are in democracy. It's their opinion. It's their right. If we have those that are complaining negatively that the president is not out of the state, we have those that are complaining positively because they miss him, they want him back. Is their right. We have those that still don't care. There are still people that will tell you that if he's in Cameroon, he is there, according to them, nothing changed. Is their opinion, and that's democracy. And with the case of transition, there is nothing for transition here. The president is fine, he is not dead, everything is going on well. So those politicians wasting their time, they should just stop all that they are doing. That's just it.
Okay, that's it. Cameroonians should just stay on. If the president stays for the next 2-3 months, there's no issue to worry about, Mr. Mosoke.
No, I think only the CPDM can see that, because they don't feel what Cameroonians feel. Yes, because the CPDM, whether something is wrong or is right, so far as it's done by somebody in the CPDM, whether it's wrong or it's right, to them it's okay. But I think that we as Cameroonians, to us it means a lot, and it's troubling us. And because we also know the implications of the president staying out there under a cloudy situation, because I've followed a lot of communications out there, many top media houses and online information, which the international community is concerned, is showing a lot of interest to the fact that a president is out of his country and the people don't even know what is going on. So to me, I think that the presidency of the republic and the spokesperson who have given his own part of what is happening, I think that they should be able to tell us once more what is happening with the president. We don't know what is happening with the president. The president is not out there to beg for investors to come and invest. That's not what we were told. So that is just something which is being assumed. We don't know what the president is doing out there. We are seeing decrees that might be that have been signed by who, we don't know.
Yeah, but the Cameroon's Minister of Communication came out anyway to debunk something. So there is a clear communication from the government which states that the president is out there and still able to do.
The decrees have been signed, and many people are questioning who signed those decrees. Were they signed out there and forwarded to Cameroon whatsoever? And one of the problems I have, and permit me to say this, is that it's very difficult to see original copies of the decrees. When you check online, you always see the photocopies. It's very difficult to see the circulation of an original copy, color copy that have been sent online. But my own take, Mr. Leo, on this issue is the fact that Cameroonians are enlightened now and today. And let the government not think that they are dealing with an ignorant set of people. Cameroonians are enlightened, and this issue is an issue. It's an abnormal situation, and let it be corrected so that Cameroonians should have a clear mind and a clear knowledge of what their president is doing out there and for how long is he going to be. I know that it may not mean anything to CPDM persons. It may not mean anything to them, because to them, so far as his name is still there as Mr. Biya, they don't have any people. Whether he stays out there for how many years, they know that Mr. Biya is out for them. But other Cameroonians who are tired of the regime in place, Cameroonians who are tired of the regime in place, they want to see that this mandate at least should be properly run, so that at least it can maybe cover up for a lot of things that in the past have not gone well. And permit me to say this one word, to say that if the government is still running, if the presidency is still running in Cameroon, in the presence of those who are not yet sure of what is happening with their president, I wish to say that they are casting doubts on the minds of Cameroonians, because, I wish to say it again, because Cameroonians want to see their president in Cameroon. We don't want a president that is working from afar. We did not vote for a remote president. We voted for a physical president. Let him be physically present in his country. And if he's not physically present, let us know clearly why he's not in the country. Thank you.
Okay, we should be, how does this paint Cameroon internationally?
And I think how it paints Cameroon internationally has been the reason why government officials have been prompted to actually talk about it, because Cameroon is not an island. President Biya is not the first president who has handled issues of absence. When the war in Iraq kicked off, one of the most dire issues that occupied the minds of international actors and even the war in Iran, one of the dire issues that preoccupied the minds of international actors and common Iranians was the state of the supreme leader, the new supreme leader, continuity.
It's not been around for long.
Yes,
they have even not seen him,
because they wanted to be sure on the issue of continuity. And this is the issue which I think Cameroonians, just like citizens of every other enlightened society, are beginning to accept that political actions have implications. And I'll keep repeating that point. If there's no continuity, it affects anybody. People can take advantage of any situation that could be in, and look at if you look at the case study of Iran, which is most recent, you'll find out that even within the ranks of government, that coercion is because even within them, information is not circulating. The Minister of Communication, His Excellency Emmanuel Sadi, said he cannot say clearly when the president will be back. He doesn't have that information. This is the Minister of Communication. He says on an international media that he doesn't have the information. Who has the information? You know, who has the information of when the president will be back? If he cannot say clearly when the president will be back, it means that there is much more to the president's absence than the common man is yet aware. We are in that time and that epoch where communication cannot be an afterthought. Clear communication cannot be an afterthought. It cannot be handled. And you see, political parties are sitting up to this aspect. And that's why not only opposition parties, everyone is investing heavily in the issue of clear communication. Because they have discovered that you are dealing with an intelligent electorate. You are dealing with an intelligent population. People are aware. People are not only concerned about the president's absence. They are concerned about the implications of the president's absence. To dismiss such concerns and say, no, the constitution covers it, is a very naive way of being able to analyze things. Cameroon is not facing anything new. Presidents have been absent. Presidents have returned. Presidents have been absent and presidents have not returned. And there is no scenario, no possible scenario that Cameroonians are worried about now that is novel, that is new to us. And so this knowledge and history repeats itself everywhere. So if we are saying the president is not around, and what happens? You see, politicians should mature and create room to accommodate psychologically that the common man's usefulness is not only when he gives vote, he can also ask difficult questions. I think politicians should mature to that point where we have room to be able to entertain difficult conversations. For people to, it's not a taboo for Cameroonians to say a 92-year-old president should be out of the country. If he's sick, let us know. It's not a taboo because that information is important. If we have a 92-year-old president and is out of the country and he is sick, and we're in an election year, let us know so that we know how we vote. These are not taboo conversations. And I think my analysis of the response of government is trying to restrain Cameroonians from not being able to entertain these conversations to the point, because the narrative is always, when you entertain conversation, when people begin to ask this question, is going to bring about instability. Those who entertain these conversations are trying to destabilize the country. That's not true. Everybody spoke about the health of Joe Biden when he was in power. People speak about the health of the president. The president of the United States does his routine medical test every year. It's on news. It is not a source of instability. It is a sign that society is maturing and it is participating in the civic process of nation building. And that begins in asking difficult questions. If the member of parliament in my place has a certain age, I should be able to not only question the fact that he wins, I should question the fact whether he can deliver what he has won. Because to be able to complete a mandate is not only that you have the mandate. Do you have the strength mentally, physically, psychologically, emotionally to be able to handle the exigencies that come with the mandate?
Now, he spent above 2 months out of the country, and there are good justifications from the constitution. There's nothing that stops him from staying. But many persons are also worried that it would have been best if he were to spend these days in, say, Marwa or in Garwa or some parts of Cameroon. Is the issue not because he's out of Cameroon?
When democracy and people have the right to their opinion, and if I'm to speak too, I also say that, wow, it could have been nice. Maybe he comes for his holiday in where I am and go through the rice farm. But you see, the outing of the president was official, and many Cameroonians don't know that President Paul Biya goes to all other regions, but it's not officially. He visits friends in other regions. Many people did not know that he was visiting Pa Mukete in Kumba, the paramount ruler of the Bafo. He was going there, but it's not official. So maybe people are expecting him to go for an official brief stay in a part of a region. They will let them know. So we should not mix official visit of region and private visit. If he wants to visit a particular region, he will not announce. When he was coming to Dedoye to meet the paramount ruler of first degree, the grandfather of Lorai, so was it announced? We know people that he has been visiting. He has been visiting the late Sultan. He has been visiting him in his palace. Those are his personal visits, his personal friends. I would say that President Paul Biya does not have friends in Cameroon that he visits them privately. So we should not mix the two. He's doing that. Except that Cameroonians want him to have a brief stay that is official, which a president in his country cannot go somewhere official when it's not work. But he cannot say he's going to visit his friend and they classify it as official. No, it's his friend, it's his private life.
Would it not be good if he does these official visits to the north, to Nganduri and other parts?
He has been doing.
And stays there for 2-3 weeks.
Is there any region President Paul Biya have not visited since he became president? He has his own private personal visits that he visits. He visits other regions, but he has his own personal friends. Anybody that thinks that President Paul Biya for the past 15 years.
Are you saying he's in Switzerland to visit a friend there?
They told us that it's a brief.
Private stay?
Private stay.
Okay.
That one I cannot judge. But about the personalities I'm talking here, it is factual. He has visited Paraguay in his palace with his helicopter. It's factual. People should do research. He has friends that he visits. He has visited Paraguay. He has visited Le Mukete. He has friends in region that he visits. So we should not mix the two to think that
we should not mix. We should not mix the two. We hope that when the president comes back, we're going to do another special edition to discuss about that. We have barely 20 minutes to discuss about our second topic, which has to do with Limbe underwater, natural disaster or failure of urban planning. Mr. Musoke, you are hoping to become the next mayor of Biya. Are you worried for Biya, judging by what you saw in Limbe? Where do we put the blame?
Yes, permit me to say that once more again, we extend our condolence to the families that lost loved ones and those that lost property in Limbe. As the United Socialist Democratic Party, we have a plan for the FACO division. After we have assessed most of what has been happening in FACO division and in Biya in particular, we have a plan. Limbe is not a problem of today. Limbe has had this problem for decades, where you always have floods in Limbe, always have the whole place flooded, and so on, landslides, and so on. In Limbe, it's not new. And it's also not new because this same scenario also happened in Kumba, where you also had flood and the whole place and so on. And we have also had some small flooding in Biya and so on. I think that the issue is the fact that we have not been able to consistently do what we are supposed to do as the government and councils. These problems are known. And I was once in Limbe when the whole place was flooded. I mean the whole place. And I saw the fact that it's like even the sea level became one with down beach. You have the sea level. So it's a very complex issue to resolve. Because when the sea also rises to that same level and you have the flood, it needs a lot of government intervention which may follow the scenarios or which may follow the pattern of countries like Netherlands that are even below sea levels, but building so much or so many embankments to block water from flowing to where people live. So I just want to say that this is a very complex problem and it requires a lot of resources to resolve this issue, especially the one in Limbe that has a link with the sea. But the issue of landslide, where people go and build houses haphazardly in places where they are not supposed to build, that one, the Limbe city councils or the Limbe councils have control over that. People are not supposed to build where they're not supposed to build. Risk zones are not supposed to be used for habitat. People are not supposed to go and build houses where landslides can occur and the rest. The first thing is, most people are saying that those people were not authorized to build where they built. They just stubbornly, due to the crisis, they have come from nowhere, and today they have bought small places and they have built. So it comes back to us who are responsible parties in these regions, in these divisions, to be able to assure the population. The council, the government is supposed to assure the population, and the council and the governments are also supposed to respect the law, because some of those places that these people built, some of them, for what we try to get at information, that some of those places were sold to them by individuals who purported even to be government officials, because some of those places are government land and lands that are not even owned by individuals. They are owned by authorities and the rest, and they sell to others, and people buy at reduced rate and build. But the risk is there. The risk factor is there that floods can occur, landslides can occur, and so on. What am I saying? I just wish to say that the councils and the government should be the custodian in their localities. People should not go and build at risk zone, and you allow them there. I think that councils have the power, the government has the power to tell people to leave, and to give them deadlines, and to give them notices to leave risk zones, because nobody should go and build in a risk zone. If you want to build in a risk zone, you should be someone who have a lot of money, and you walk the place and maybe bulldoze the whole place down, put the whole place down, then you level it before you can never build. If you have a lot of money, you can manage a risk zone. But people who don't have money, who are building patches on landslide or places that can easily slide off, I think that is a problem. And I made a statement, I'm going to make this statement again, that Cameroonians, please let us be the first persons to be responsible for our lives. When you are building in a zone which is a risk zone, when flood occurs or whatsoever occurs, you are the one who will lose. It's not the government, it's not the council. So when we disobey, when we don't follow the laws, when we don't respect the laws the way they have been laid down, and we think that we can do whatsoever thing we wish to do, it will bounce back to us. But the situation of Limbe is complex, and I think the government and the councils should look for this problem and solve this problem once and for all. Because I have spoken with so many friends who grew up in Limbe, and they said even when they were growing up, this problem was there, and it has not been solved. So I think that is a long-lasting problem that really needs urgent attention, so that Limbe should be free from these happenings that occurs year in, year out. Thank you.
Prof, you are a Limbe son. Do we lack experts? Do we lack resources? What do we lack to arrest this situation? Because as we speak, we may still record some cases in the next
August
2
is
3
just starting.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's very sad. But the problem of Limbe is a governance problem.
Okay.
We cannot control the natural disaster of heavy rainfall. It's a phenomenon that is not so much in our hands. But there is a part of that can be actually controlled. That's the hazard part. But the resilience are there structures, are there infrastructures that are resilient enough to be able to resist hazard? Because you have to look at it from these two. On one hand, there are hazards that are basically out of control. For example, government cannot determine where fires are going to break out, but they can determine that there is a sapeur-pompier that can be available to intervene at short notice and make sure that the situation is contained. So we have a situation where the infrastructure is not resilient enough. When you see a recurrent pattern of a hazard occurring over and over, and then seemingly measures are taken, the measures are eroded, the pattern is overwhelming those measures, to tell you that it's a governance problem. And I think the problem is simple, very simple. Mr. Musoke says it's complex. Yes, on one hand, but it's also simple in the sense that it is not a separate problem from the problem we face. The issue of the flooding is a clear demonstration of where you have deconcentration and decentralization. There is actually a framework. There are actually institutions. There is the local councils. There's a Ministry of Environment. There is the delegations. There are companies like Isakam and all of these institutions exist. But are the institutions capacitated to make the decisions that can actually change the well-being of the people? Is the question. Do they have the resources? Do they have the free will to be able to deploy resources where it is needed? That's the question. That's actually the issue. Because when I've looked at the data, evidentially speaking, deeply, I found out that there are clear measures on how Limbe can be flood free. but the local authorities do not have the capacity in terms of finances made available to them and in terms of the authority to independently and autonomously make decisions. Because when you have a flood and you have to refer back to Yaoundé to be able to get authorization, you have to refer back to authorities to be able to get a leeway, and then a commission will sit to be able to look at it. And you cannot intervene immediately. One of the things that developed countries or countries that are developing set in place is emergency fund. It's emergency response. Emergency funds and emergency response is the assumption that you don't always have to wait for things to happen before you begin to formulate a response on how to handle it. You anticipate that this thing has happened in Limbe over and over for more than 30, 40 years. It's definitely going to happen again. What can be done? What infrastructures can be put in place? What resources can be allocated to put in resilient structures that will put an end to it? That's why I say it's a governance problem. And it's not a separate governance problem. It's a governance problem that shows the problem that decentralized structures have. For example, one of the reasons why the flooding happens is because of sewage disposal. It's because of debt. As simple as it is. Now, does the local council, which is the main institution within that geographical jurisdiction, do they have the full autonomy to deal with the issue of waste management or spoke on this program? It is an 85-15% ratio. The central government has 85% concerning the intervention and disposal of debt, and the local council has 15%. Now, if this is a major factor concerning because most of the drainages that are even in place are not working at full capacity because they are clogged, and they are clogged because of debt. But who has the mandate to solve the debt problem? It's still centralized. And so we find out that the governance challenge is that decentralized structures should be given both the resources and the autonomy to solve this problem. And I think if that is done, it is going to go a long way. And like we said in one of our last program, I said I salute the initiative of the Limbe City Council that has taken, because within the framework of the 15% they have been given, they are looking at creative ways in which, through a participatory approach with the population, they can deal with the issue of debt, in their own way. But I think the issue of debt is far more bigger than just the council. These issues which are the source of big problems should actually be decentralized in the very sense of decentralization. And automatically we will see the problems begin to disappear. It may not go away overnight because it will require heavy capital investment. But I think that in the coming years, and Mr. Leo, let's remember that we are dealing with climate change. The whole world is dealing with climate change. Yeah. So the percentage of rainfall is going to increase. We are not hoping. The hope that rain is going to reduce is not it's a fragile hope. Yeah. We can only hope that we have more resilient structures that will be able to resist the rainfall that is still coming, because rain is actually still coming.
Rain is still coming. The senior divisional officer 2 days ago told those living in this risk zone that he was giving them 2 weeks to quit. But we have had similar calls here, because this is not the first time. We always hear them quit, but nobody is leaving. What should be done?
The council, the city mayor, from my investigation, most of those areas where people are settled, they are aware of it and they know the consequences. Some have left those areas, some are still there. And
this is not the first landslide.
It's not the second. Yes. Yeah, remember, I think it's about 25 years today when we had the highest catastrophe based on this. I think it was 2001 at Mabeta, where more than 20 people died and houses were destroyed. And that's the situation where we are today. There are those that will leave. There are those that they will be told, but it will be difficult for them to leave. They don't have that financial capacity to buy a land, and going to break those houses is an opinion, but it also have consequences. So those are some of the problems. But we need to be realistic when we are analyzing these two. I think Limbe is below sea level than Douala. And secondly, we know that because of this crisis, Northwest and Southwest, we know that these two regions, the most safest place is Limbe. And the population of Limbe have moved to about 60,000 to almost 300,000 inhabitants. This goes back to the problem which my co-panelist was talking about, haphazard building, dirt management, which therefore disturb these various drainage, which becomes really a problem. And Limbe has three main streams, which we all know, the Womange, the Limbe River itself, which we all know. There we have the Jekele River, which people in Limbe, they all know. These are the three main rivers that need to be canonized, you know, as canalized. As we see in Yaoundé, very big. But to be very honest with you people, despite all these disasters that have been happening, the master plan for this to be done in Limbe was done just 2 years ago by the present city mayor. I asked myself that, with all what happened in Mabeta over 25 years ago, they did not have no urban master plan to develop Limbe. It's now that the present city mayor is coming to do it. Yes, when this crisis happened, we had the Minister of Secondary Education went there, a delegation from urban development went there, and it was the first time that ministry was given an urban plan development, master plan development by the city mayor Ngale. If he had not done that, if he had not invested to do this plan, the people of Limbe should still have about 2 to 3 years to suffer.
As a consequence, when you have a
yes.
leader.
Because if we had not done this plan, we could have been crying now, but we could have still have about 4 years till a plan will be done, given to the Minister of Environment, given to the urban planning, before they will be able to invest and do it. And that's the primordial work of the council, the city council, and is now that he's doing it.
Agreed.
And I knew it through one of the member of the delegation that went there. Because from my own findings, when we write to complain from the ministry and talk, the ministry will tell you that this is the first time they are having an urban plan that the city mayor is given. So for the past decade, no city mayor has even put a developmental plan. It's now that the population has coming in that we are seeing it. One of these issues we are talking about, we have is the present city mayor now that has known about the planting of trees over big rivers to be able to control this. That is his level. The only issue is that is his level. But when it comes to competence, we should know what mayors can do, what city mayors can do, and what is the responsibility of the government. When you look at the case in Yaoundé, it was not built by the city mayor of Yaoundé. It was the ministry was involved, and even the state would compliance with the World Bank. So I think that the city mayor, the elites, and the rest should be able to stand.
What you're saying has to do with drainage. You're talking about a drainage plan to get water out of
with the three main rivers.
Yes, but we are talking about structures that have been constructed, and they're being constructed on this risk zone without.
And that's what I'm saying. That if this drainage had been there, how will people construct on it?
No. We have those hills. They are not drainage on those hills.
There's a multifaceted approach. There's a multifaceted reasons why this problem is existing. It's not just a drainage issue. That's why we look at it as a governance issue. Now,
who is permitting the construction of houses in risk zones?
Let me even say it. Constructing of the houses is wrong, and it's going on. We even have gutters that are obsolete. That when water comes, it pops up. We don't even have bridges because what the Frenchman call ponceau, these small things we have that water pass under, we don't have it in Limbe. The ones we have were constructed since in the 1980s. Is obsolete. That is a reality which I'm not debunking. Yeah, but what I am saying is that if this drainage, like we see in Yaoundé, like we see in Douala, were constructed, it will not permit people to even build there.
Do you see? No. You're talking about drainage. Do you see people living up the hills?
Yes.
On cliffs.
That's not a drainage.
That has nothing to do with drainage.
That's land use.
Who is permitting these houses to be constructed?
It's permissible land use, and this is where we see the judicious use of authority. The argument that people are giving notice to clear and they don't clear till the next rainy season comes up and more notices to clear are given is the exact environment where we need to see authority being used to be able to cause compliance. People can actually comply. See, we have seen it in others. We have seen it if the state wants compliance on key issues. The state has capacity to be able to enforce compliance. The people who go to build houses are marked eventually. For example, not going too far. When you get into Limbe, at the entrance of my 2, where there is a petrol station, and you want to go through the road of GHS, there was a major drainage programmed on that place. Somebody came and started building. The city council actually marked that house for demolition. Eventually, the paint was wiped off, and the house was completed. So, under those circumstances, how do you say that it is just the people? Will you see an issue where a system is not structured and wired for good results? Because on such a major drainage, the volume of water that passes in that particular place. I mean, I grew up in Limbe. I went to GHS. I know the volume of water that leaves that place coming down. When I got into Limbe, and I saw that somebody has erected not just a bungalow, I think it's a 2 or 3 story building right across on top of the drainage. And the city council knew, in the absence of a city master plan, before houses have been approved, it means that there is a certain working document that shows habitable zones, and these building permits are approved based on a criteria of factors: environmental reasons, positioning, structure, and all the like. This particular building we're talking about, that most of us are aware, was marked for demolition. How did it happen eventually that the mark for demolition, and the reason for the mark of demolition was because this guy built the house on a drainage, on a waterway? How did it happen that a mark of demolition was eventually converted into an approval until the building was completed? So the responsibility is not just the day when major resources are going to be available. It is a high sense of responsibility on local administrators to actually use the authority and the mandate they have been given to serve the people. Limbe authorities can actually do better. They can do better. You know, a situation that reoccurs every day and every day, people should be cleared.
Sorry situation for the people of Limbe, especially the workers of the councils in Limbe, because we have information that at the level of the city council, they have gone 9 months without a salary. The level of Limbe 3, they have gone they have gone for almost 3 years without salary. Yes, they're owing them. Yes, they have. Please. Limbe 3. Limbe, I'm sure Limbe 2 is, I don't know whether it's 8 months. I don't know. Then for Limbe 1, they have 3 months. So that's also the situation. There is no cash in hand. I don't know, but we are going to discuss that. I actually wanted us to talk it today, but next edition we're going to look at it. But can we say that the authorities themselves are complacent because people are constructing, and I'm sure by next week we are still going to see fine houses being erected in these risk zones?
Yes, I think the issue of corruption is because I've also seen in Biya where houses are marked, demolished, at the end you come. I have personally done an investigation. I've gone right to the councils, finally, and investigation. There is a lot of corruption people have built in places where they were not supposed to build. But they go behind and bribe, and they are issued. Then you have made this place that this person was not supposed to build, it was written there, demolish. The person finally raises structure and is living there. So corruption is also a big issue here. The authorities collect bribe to still issue building permits where they're not supposed to issue. And going to mark demolish is to make sure that the person will pay for the building permit and also pay an extra money again to the authorities. The authorities too are also very corrupt, and they are contributing to this disorder. They are contributing seriously to the disorder. Even when people build at risk zone, they go and mark demolish. But towards the end, you still find those structures erected, and nothing is done. The council sits quietly, the mayor sits quietly, he has collected his money and put his pocket quietly. They always say that the people should leave, the people should leave, the people should leave. There will be noise. Very soon, everything just dies down. Because they have collected monies and put in their pockets quietly. They are guilty, their conscience is also judging them. Those people stay there. Very soon, there's landslide. And the same mayors will come out and say, no, we told them that they should leave. But you collected money for this person to build. That is why he's still there.
How were the building permits?
Yes, how was the building permit issued to these persons? So the whole issue is complex because there's corruption, there is there is the stubbornness of the people themselves who know that this is a risk zone. I'm not supposed to build here, but they prefer to go behind and give an envelope so that they will be permitted to build. And at the end, when there's landslide, you are the one that suffers. The mayor is not the one that will suffer. He will still come out again and make a statement.
Maybe the mayor who signed the permit will no longer be in office.
Yes, the mayor who signed the permit might not longer be in office. You are the loser. That is why I say that the population should sit up. When you know that something is not correct, don't engage in it. Because you will be the one to lose at the end. It will not be the person who gave you the permit that will lose. You will be the loser. And if it has to cost lives, like what we saw, lives will be lost and you will be the loser. So I think that we should be more responsible as citizens also. In as much as there is corruption, we should not use that as a springboard to do the wrong thing, which may bounce back to make us to suffer.
Now, somebody is watching. Good to Mr. Kum, please ask Mr. Lucas Mosoke whether, if elected, he would have the legal authority and institutional capacity to demolish the stores currently under construction behind the stadium fence leading to the central market, as well as houses constructed on waterways. I've done an article on the stores that are being constructed. Yes, somebody sent me pictures
that are being constructed. The mayor has issued a disclaimer that he has not issued a building permit for those stores to be constructed. We are waiting to see those stores demolished because it's the same tactics that are being used all the time. The same tactics. You claim to have given a disclaimer, but tomorrow you see those stores are being raised. Yes. At the end now, those structures with disclaimer. So that is it. So we will still investigate this issue more to know the persons that are building and what has permitted them to continue to build.
Somebody sent me pictures.
So if
indicating that works are ongoing.
No, if truly those people have not been authorized, they will not continue to build because that is government land.
Yeah, but they are constructing.
Yes.
Go there tomorrow.
Mr. Leo, that is government land. Yes. There's no way that people will be building on government land and they are asked to stop. Yes. And they continue to build. Yes. There is something wrong. I mean, on government land, it's not their private land. It's government land. So you see that there's something wrong somewhere. So issuing disclaimers upon disclaimers and the people continue to build and you allow them to build, there's a problem. Because that is not their private land. It's government land. How come that they even had the audacity to step into government land to be building
without the complicity
of authorities? Yes.
Confidence
yes. So the hands of corrupt officials, administrators, and so on. It may even be a network of corrupt officials and the rest who are involved. And the mayor needs to, this is the time to really see who the mayor is, because he has to step in. I've not authorized this to happen. Demolish, and truly they should be demolished.
The listener says that
yes.
Will you be able to
I felt
like you were missing.
I am already engaging that those structures should not be raised. I'm already engaging. We are going to talk until those structures will not be raised.
Yes.
Yes. We will not wait. We will not wait. We will not wait to become mayor's first before the structures are demolished. Let them not be built. Let them stop work immediately.
What I received pictures from there today.
Yes.
Showing that works are ongoing.
That's why I'm saying that the disclaimer will not be true if that work goes through. The disclaimer.
Yeah, but somebody made me to understand that there is a tussle between the municipal administrators and the government. The government,
yes.
Maybe the SDU and
yes.
other administrative guys,
yes.
that they, because the mayor says we don't want it,
yes.
but people are taking the powers from other
yes.
administrative offices to do what they are doing.
Yeah,
there's a tussle of power.
Yes,
yeah.
That's yeah, Mr. Leo. This is not the first time that work. It started sometime last year, and the mayor issued a disclaimer whatsoever, and that works. It stopped. But all of a sudden, in 2026, it is resurfacing. It means that there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Yes.
The same place that work started last year and it stopped. We are seeing and that is government land. That is the staging, which means that the walls of those stores will be the fence of the walls.
Now somebody
it's really somebody, not something to even allow.
They say the guys are working with police taking guard. The police.
Okay, that's what I'm going to
That means administrative authorization.
Yes. Yeah, but
no, it's administrative authorization.
To build
when that maybe at this point the mayor may have nothing to say. Administrative. No, what I mean.
This is my point that I have raised repeatedly and tried to share. Go ahead. You will.
I'm saying that.
Yes.
When you see people working with police like this, where a mayor has done a disclaimer, it is clear that it is administrative order.
That could as well be as assumption.
Will permit.
It could be an abuse of authority.
How can any permit me to talk?
Yes.
How can an individual have police to be guarding?
We have seen it in this country.
No, it is administrative. It is where I not said it's not happening. Listen.
Yes.
Oh la la.
I
not said it's not happening.
No,
I am saying that that one is administratively influenced.
Does a
mayor,
which means that the individuals have a backing from some.
That's what. Yes.
Administration.
No, we have to follow up the issue and make sure that those structures are demolished.
You are going to follow up.
No, we are going to follow up this issue. Okay. Yes, I am not the mayor, but I am from this thing is done on government land, and I think that we can intervene as the community against it.
Okay.
Yes, we can intervene as a community against it.
Okay.
The mayor has given a disclaimer, right? And now we see people violating his disclaimer with policemen there. What I am saying here now is that the hands of the mayors are tight here. It should be an administrative influence.
No, the hands of the mayor
because they are violating
his municipality. The hands of the mayor should not be tied in his municipality.
What should he do then?
In his municipality. The mayor knows what to do next.
What should he do?
Yes. The mayor knows what to do next.
Come in.
We are in an election. We are approaching municipal and parliamentary.
The mayor knows what to do next.
We have seen mayors. We have seen mayors who are resilient. Mayors have come up who have pointed to administrative authorities the boundaries of administrative authority and municipal authority.
Yes.
But then also we are also in an election year, an election season cycle, where maybe some of these mayors are afraid of the juxtaposing complexities of their re-election. But you see, this is a clear demonstration of where catastrophes come from.
Yeah, because the person who is writing from Biya says that once the gutters that are coming down, they are blocked because of this construction, which is preparing the grounds for the catastrophe that you're talking about.
That's how it is. It is always like the pattern follows a certain sequence where you have a framework given to local administrators to be able to operate. But after the framework has been given to them, resources are not given to them, and the autonomy to be able to act is not given to them. So you have a mayor who is supposed to operate within his jurisdiction, but then also authorizations for lands can be issued without his approval. It can be issued from the DO's office.
We are out. We are out. Please, we are out of time. Please, we are out of time. We are going to do our investigations. We are going to send guys down there in Boya. I'm sure they'll work with myself. You. And also, we're going to send guys down to Limbe to come back to what we're discussing about, because we have not really had time to exhaust this topic. Thank you, Prof, for coming.
Thank you very much. It's been a very edifying conversation with my co-panelists. And I think the population and our fellow comrades have seen the need for very stringent personal responsibility. It's not just the government who has a responsibility towards our collective development. Each and every person must take up their responsibilities within their immediate environment to see how their lives can become better. Thank you, Mr. Leo, for inviting me.
Okay, thank you for coming, Mr. Amos. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Leo, for inviting me. I just wish to say again that the United Socialist Democratic Party, we are mobilizing seriously. And again, once more, permit me to use the opportunity to say that all youths, women and men should go and register for election. It's their right to register for election, so that when the time comes, they'll be able to vote. So we are promoting the fact that youth, women and men should go and register, because this is the last month of election registration. You should go and register for elections. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming, Kedia.
We thank the Almighty God and the head of state.
Okay. You thank the head of state. We pray that he comes back. Cameroonians are missing him
very much.
Okay, we want to thank you all for watching this edition of the program. Thank you to Eli for producing, and we are taking an engagement to investigate what's happening in Boya, and also properly what's happening in Limbe as far as the construction of houses on government lands, because many of them have been sold out. We remember that the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalowa Lyonga, also raised an issue of lands behind GHS Limbe. We've had a situation of lands around the primary school. Is it the primary school that is? Yes, Moliko, encroached, and almost everywhere. I'm sure Bolifamba,
very huge land.
Yes, so we're going to be investigating this and discussing it on probably our next edition of the program. Thank you all for watching. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.